All right, so there are four different strategies we have in EA College Football 26 when it comes to recruiting. And I think that for these, the four of them, again, we're not going to discuss which ones are strongest or weakest. We are going to discuss how they're strong and how they're weak. I actually think at the end of this that there's a nice combination you can do of all of these things. What is up, everybody? It is Jake back with the MF Film Room. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things EA College Football, hit that red subscribe button, hit the like button, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. If you like college football content, go subscribe to my other channel, Master Football with Jake Posey. Link is in the description. But enough about all that EA College Football content. Let's go. All right, guys, we're rolling here. And I know it's been a while since I posted, but I'm going to be posting more often. I actually have a list of like 10 videos I got to make because I'll give you a insight into it. One, pulling guards suck in this game. Inside zone from shotgun actually works. The pistol is OP, but we're going to talk about that later. First thing we're going to talk about here is I was looking around and seeing a couple different creators and their strategies. This is the best way to recruit. Here's what you got to do. And I think I pulled a lot of things from those that I really like. Now, I made this video, and I'm making this video with stuff that I kind of named myself. If somebody else there named it at the same time, I trust you. It is pure coincidence. But I wanted to go through that because there's a couple different strategies for recruiting that I think are the different ways that people like to go about it. I've got a dynasty right now with me and three of my brother, my friend, and his friend. My friend too now. It's one of those things where you kind of see what everybody's different strategies are, and you kind of blend them all together. So I've been able to pull four, not completely different, but unique versions and unique strategies that people use. I want to get into those strategies right now because I want to talk about, one, those different strategies, and as well as my strategy, which, again, I think is the best. But again, you guys will let me know at the end what your strategies are, but let's get into those strategies right now. All right, so there are four different strategies we have in EA College Football 26 when it comes to recruiting. And I think that for these, the four of them, again, we're not going to discuss which ones are strongest or weakest. We are going to discuss how they're strong and how they're weak. I actually think at the end of this that there's a nice combination you can do of all of these things. Like I said, these are not all, you can do one while doing the other at the same time, but they're different ways about going about recruiting. The first one there is a front runner, then the miner, then the sprinter, which I nicknamed the hare, and the cliffhanger, which I nicknamed the tortoise. So the front runner, let's see what the front runner is real quick. So the front runner is pretty simple here. All you do for the front runner is you basically go in and you check out the best recruits and you put all of them that haven't been contacted. This is preseason right here. So what I've done is you can see I'm South Florida. I'm not on any of these top 10 lists right here. So I'm keep on going through here, not on it. I don't care because I see 4-star, 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 5-star. These are all from my pipelines. I kind of don't really care. I'm going to pick the best guys. These guys I am because I saw a couple speedster receivers I was interested in. But these guys right here, I really just want to put the best players on there, kind of go about it and see whether or not I can get them or not. What I do is that if not, I'm not able to get one of them. All you really do is you come into here, you go to your recommended, or you don't even really go to your recommended. You go to your pipelines. You even go to any state if you really want to. You pick out the guy that you want the most. Who's the next guy I could pick? I could pick out this guy. And then you add this guy right here, Mr. Nick Jackson, add him onto the board and move on from there. Basically, somebody's uncontacted. You kind of go about your business trying to find them versus, trying to, I'm going to get somebody who's interested in me or who fits my scheme. You basically say, I want the best players. I want to put the best players on my board. And if somebody goes after them, I drop them, I add another player, and we go on from there. That's the front running strategy. So you see with the front runner there's a couple different things. The front runner, the strengths are is you hit all the untouched high-level recruits. Basically, you put them on your board, you go to the best players available, you may scout them, you may not. Most of the time you don't. You're just like, I don't care because I know if he's a 4-star, he's got a certain floor and how good he is, and I want them. You add them on there. If somebody goes after them, you're going to lose them. Drop them off, go find the next best guy, add them on there. So you're going to hit all those high untouched recruits. The issue with this strategy, though, is you're going to be in a lot of recruiting battles because one of the things about this is maybe not recruiting battles, but you're going to be recruiting against a lot of competition. Recruiting battles or something specific. So with that, what you do is you add somebody on, and you know that if you're going after a 5-star, there's going to be 15 offers. There's going to be 8 offers. There's going to be 4 offers. That's a lot to compete with. You're going to have to put a lot of time into this. It's really hard to get those guys because they're really, really wanted. Also with that, though, you typically don't scout. So there's no indication you're getting a good fit find or not. Now, A 4-star bust is still going to be a pretty good player. So worst come to worst, you get a 4-star bust who's basically like a 3-star. He's probably normal dev trait. It's whatever. But you're generally going to have a certain floor going after those high-level guys. And being able to do that, I mean, you might be able to get a couple of them. And if you do, getting 2 or 3 5-star recruits, even if you have the rest 3 stars or maybe 2 stars, are going to dramatically change your team, especially if you know how to use them. All right, up next is the miner strategy. And I will admit, I am, of all of 4 of these, I'm probably most the miner, because all you're doing for mining, again, if you're mining, what are you looking for? You're looking for gems. I'm in the state of Idaho, the gem state, blah, blah, blah. But you're looking for gems. You want to basically you're doing a ton of scouting, and you're going out there, you're trying to find gems. You're not trying to find busts, you're trying to find gems. You kind of sort your board accordingly. A 4-star who's a normal dev trait, or a 2-star who is a gem, me personally, I'd probably take the 2-star that's a gem. The 4-star is going to be able to help right away. I actually have a dynasty right now where I have a 4-star who is normal dev trait, and he's probably going to start 4 years. Now, he's always going to kind of be what he is. He's going to get a little bit better and so on and so forth. But I've got 2-star gems that I'm recruiting right now that I'm like, dang, dude, if this guy comes in with impact, or he comes in with like star or elite dev trait, he's going to be an absolute problem. It's checking out that miner strategy, you'll see what it looks like. Now, for the miner strategy, it's pretty simple. As you can see here, the top guys on my board here are all gems. Actually, as a matter of fact, they're all Mike linebacker gems. Now you can switch positions, which is pretty cool. But you can see that the guys that I've got, this is in preseason, I've got gem, 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 and then I kind of don't really care from after that. I scouted them, I don't really care. Now, the thing about this is that you're going to be using a ton of points on scouting, but you are going to make sure that all those points you're allocating are going to be going towards guys that you know probably impact dev trait, maybe higher. It's going to be a good long-term investment for these guys if you get them, but you know which ones you want versus which ones you don't. Obviously, the strengths of the miner, it's pretty obvious. You're going to find the most gem recruits out there. And those gem recruits, I don't know, man. Sometimes you can get a normal, a guy who's not a gem, who's got like impact or star or elite dev trait, something like that. But those gems, if you can find gems, that is going to drastically improve your recruiting. They're at least impact, maybe above there. They're going to be a lot better than they typically come across. So you can go recruit a couple of 2-star guys who have gem abilities rather than 3-star guys that don't, and 4-star guys that are busts. It's going to kind of be a wash there. The issue with this, though, is that you are going to spend a lot of points on scouting. It's going to cost you a ton of points. You're going to have to be pretty patient, especially early on. You might only be giving a couple guys points early on because most of your points you're going to be using towards scouting. All you're trying to do, scout, find a gem, put it there, give them points. Scout, find a gem, put them on your board, give them points. That's all you're really going to be doing. It takes a patient mind, but again, I think in the end, it's one that I use most often. I think it's pretty beneficial. All right, next up. And again, these recruiting strategies, I want to make sure that I clarify. They're not all uniquely different, but they are the strategies that you go about. That's why I mentioned here with the sprinter. You can be a sprinter while being a miner and a front runner. You can't really do it with being a cliffhanger. But being a sprinter, again, this tortoise and the hare, so it's an obvious story back in the day. The hare sprints and sprints and sprints and sprints and sprints, and the cliffhanger, the tortoise, kind of slowly takes their time. So with the sprinter, it's really, really easy. I've got a lot of you do that. You basically just give them as many max points to players that you want as possible. And I know you've seen this board before. As you can see here, I've got a couple guys here. This was a 4-star who I was on his board, but you can see all you're doing, max points, 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 and then kind of some leftover points you had from there. You're just trying to be like, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy. You think about this guy over here. This quarterback, I mean, you think about this. This is a dual threat guy. He's a gem. He's got 93 throw power, 82 speed, 86 acceleration. He's going to be a problem. You give this guy some development, maybe redshirt him a year if you're patient. He's going to be an absolute freakazoid of a player. You give him max points. I want this guy to commit as fast as possible. So the strengths for this one are pretty obvious. It's the fastest method to get a recruit to commit. You want to give them the most amount of points. You're not messing around. Schedule visits, schedule comparative visits, do all that kind of stuff. You're just trying to make sure that you give as many points to the guys that you want as possible. Some of the weaknesses, though, it takes up a lot of points. Again, the same thing with like being a miner takes up a lot of points, but a lot of mining is just finding who you should and shouldn't go after. This right here takes up a lot of points. Going after certain people. One of the issues with this, though, especially I found this amongst the higher level recruits, is there is no guarantee they commit before the offseason recruiting ends. I feel like the higher level recruits, they commit really, really slow. I've been giving guys, you give a 2-star guy a bunch of points, he might commit really quickly. You give a 4-star guy a bunch of points and somebody else is giving them points, and they kind of take their sweet time to make a choice. It kind of hurts there. So the sprinter strategy uses up a lot of points, but they're going towards something. There's no guarantee they commit depending upon how good they are, and especially the higher level recruits, they do take their sweet time. All right, and last but not least is the cliffhanger. So I call it the cliffhanger because for cliffhanger, you're hanging on there. You're just trying to hold on. You're just trying to hold on. You have to let go at some points, but for the most part, you're just hanging on. Now, the thing about the cliffhanger, though, it's actually got a lot of really good benefits to it, but it's definitely a risky strategy towards the end of the season. You're starting to get closer and closer and closer. Again, the cliffhanger, I'll give an insight here. The transfer portal recruiting works like the cliffhanger. Everybody has done the cliffhanger before, but you just might not know what it's called. I mean, I call it the cliffhanger colloquially. So the cliffhanger, what you do, you basically just try and get a lead, and then you just hold on. And all you're trying to do is hold on week after week, day after day, wait until after that week 4 of recruiting in the offseason, and then all those people commit at once. So checking it out, it's got some benefits to it, but there's some issues as well. So for the cliffhanger, you can see we're week 6, but you can see here, I mean, despite the fact we only have 300 points to recruit for the week, which is terrible. Again, Kent State's it's a rough program. But you're checking out first on most of these guys' boards. You'll see one of the issues, though, down here. So right here and here. So I'm giving this guy, I'm the only guy giving this guy time. I'm the only guy giving this time. But if you check this guy out, Army's coming. Right over here, it looks like UConn is coming. So this guy right here is 50 points. I'm just trying to get first on his board. I will eventually get there because nobody else is going after him. But somebody's going after this guy, and somebody's going after this guy. Now we're in a battle. And one of the benefits of the cliffhanger strategy is that there's a ton of guys that you can commit to you by just giving them a couple points per week. The issue, though, is if somebody else comes, then you're in a little bit of a competition. So like you saw there, you can hit the maximum amount of recruits at once. I was going after like 14 guys being freaking Kent State. Kent State's not a good program in this. No offense, Kent State, you know who you are. But you can see the fact that I was going after a lot of guys. I was first on a lot of boards there. Looks like I was going to get a fair amount of recruits. And basically, it's how all transfer portal recruiting is. If some of you guys are good enough to get somebody to commit in the transfer portal, good for you. I've had a lot of troubles with it. More often than not, I just try and be first by the end of the 4 weeks, and then they get them. That's how you get them to commit to you. One of the weaknesses, though, you saw that there. If someone else starts going and recruiting your player, you will have to adjust. You have to hang on, or you have to let go. That guy right there, that UConn was going after that one guy, Army is going after the other guy. I have to make a decision. Do I pull back? Do I keep on giving them points? How much do I like them? That's the dilemma of the cliffhanger strategy. All right, ultimately we get to my strategy here. And the reason why it's called my strategy, and it's just what I do a bit of everything. Like I said, all of those strategies aren't necessarily unique to themselves. I do know that the tortoise and the hare version, the sprinter and the cliffhanger are kind of opposites of each other. But for the most part, you could incorporate all strategies in your recruiting. So depending upon the time of year, it's going to change what you're doing. For the preseason, you're going to be scouting all the highest level recruits who are interested in you or who you want. So if you're like, I want a speedster receiver, I want this, I want that, or look at this guy's a thumper linebacker, even though I kind of like lurkers. Again, go after them, scout them, because I will let you know if you get a high level, a gem, somebody like that, who at a position at an archetype that you don't like, a lot of times you can change them to the archetype or change them similar to the archetype that you do like. You can get a gritty possession receiver, and if he's a gem and if he's a star or elite dev trait, you can make them really fast. There's lots of things you can do there. Then what you want to do is entering week 1, you need to give the max amount of points to the sprinter to the highest level recruits on your board, and especially any gems. So week 1, preseason, all you can do is scout and offer scholarships. Week 1, you want to set your board, give as much time to the people that you know you want. You're like, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy. And then you kind of go from there and adjust. All right, my strategy in early to mid to late year, what you do is throughout the season up to weeks 9, 10, and 11. That will be important here in a second. You want to look for the highest level recruits who have been uncontacted or who are still in the early stages of recruiting, aka you want to use the Frontrunner strategy. So if somebody's got one offer on their board, you can still kind of sneak in there and go after them. They've got 4 offers. It's a complete battle. You might want to stay away from that one. But again, after week 2, if you're going after some guy and you've got a big, there's a big gap between you and the guy who's first place on their board, maybe drop them, kind of go from there. I would say this too, especially early on, unless you have the guys that you want. If you have the guys that you want, the guys you want, or gems, you generally need to be scouting as much as you're giving out points. Again, find those gems, use that miner strategy. For the late season, it gets a little bit different here because as you start adding and dropping guys off your board, around weeks 9, 10, 11, it's starting to get to the point to where, okay, this guy's not going to commit by the time we get to, or I'm not going to be able to get this guy to fully commit by the time we get to the end of week 4 of off-season recruiting. So basically what you're doing here is if they're close to committing, keep race to the finish line with that recruit, go the sprinter strategy. When you're adding new recruits, you're just trying to hang on. You add a new recruit, you're just trying to make sure you get first on their board and then pull back the points to make sure if anybody, tries to go after them, you give them the appropriate amount of points to keep pace. But for the most part, you're not trying to get those guys to commit before the end of week 4 because it's going to be too many points. You just want to be first place. I would also mention here, only schedule visits to build leads. If you have a substantial one, then save your points. So those visits, I would really only schedule visits if a guy's close to committing and you think you can, schedule him against an easy victory or something like that. Or if you're in a battle and you need to get extra points. Beyond that though, if you're using the cliffhanger strategy, I would save your points on scheduling visits. Again, only use them if you need to. But beyond that, save those points, put them elsewhere, especially if it's like week 3 and the off-season recruiting, you're going after somebody and nobody else is. Do not schedule a visit. They're not going to commit in time. Save those points. And again, last but not least, I'm telling you, still scout as much as you can. Obviously, if you need to fill holes. But I'm telling you, finding those, one gem is worth more than 2 players. You can get 2 players at the end of the season. We're going to go over that strategy here next because I'll show you how, but get that gem more than trying to get 2 regular players. And then you get to the transfer portal. So the transfer portal is the off-season recruiting. And again, you're mainly going to use the cliffhanger strategy here. So I would say that if you're going after a transfer portal player and nobody else is, do not schedule them for a visit. Get a big lead, sit on that, you should be fine. When you need to fill out your roster, this is where it gets different here because you'll know that like some guys will have I'll have 10 commits, I'll have 15, but you need 30 guys because you also lost 9 in the transfer portal, something like that, and you need to get 19 guys, and it's week 3 of the offseason, and you're like, dang, dude, I'm kind of low on dudes here. What you want to do is you want to lay out the scouting for week 3. Week 3 and week 4, what you want to do is you want to put recruits on your board in spots you have to fill. Remember here, all you need to do is recruit to the commit is first on their interest following week 4 of the off-season recruiting. All you need to do is make sure you're first heading and following week 4. So week 3 and week 4, add people on, give points enough to get first on their board. If somebody else is going after them, then maybe give them more points, but just make sure you're first. You could be first and you could be halfway the far filled up in interest. You could be first, you could be barely even filled up all the way. Make sure they're first, make sure you offer them a scholarship, sit on it, and you have a bunch of people commit that very last week. So that's my strategy. You front run at the beginning, you mine the entire time, you sprint at the beginning. Towards the middle and late part of the season, you're going to use that cliffhanger strategy. You're just trying to hold on. You're just trying to maintain. But remember, I'm telling you, as much as you can, you need to mine, get those gems. They are unbelievable. You can always fill it later with the strategy of the cliffhanger late in off-season recruiting. All right, guys, what's your strategy? Again, this is just what I like to do. I use a couple of those different things there. There's a couple people who say, oh, this is mathematically the best way to strat. Again, to each his own. I appreciate what you do, but I want to hear what you guys have for your strategies and what you guys think, what you guys have found, and what does not work. You guys get in the comments and let me know. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. Remember to please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. So for me, guys, I'll see you guys later. I am out.